So, good morning everybody and welcome back to another vlog. Thank you for joining me once again. Check out these beautiful conditions we've got here today. I can't quite believe it's worked out the way it has. We were forecast freezing fog last night and sure enough, here it is today. When I woke up this morning and looked out the window and saw what the conditions were like, I thought there was no way I was going to ignore this opportunity to take some photos. So I'm out again with the EOS 40D. Hopefully I'll be able to get some decent shots, and hopefully I'll be able to get some shots before the fog burns off and the sun comes out. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to do that, but that's the plan for today. One of the biggest problems with conditions like these is that they are very fleeting, particularly in this country. We don't very often get conditions like this that stick around for long periods of time. Once, twice, maybe 3 times a year if we're very lucky, and also in pockets in different parts of the country. So to be able to get conditions like this on an early winter morning in December is really quite special. So obviously I've had to come out and make the most of this. These really are my favourite conditions for any type of outdoors photography. So obviously it's time to take photos when the weather's like this. But I'm just looking around at this woodland behind me to see if the fog is thick enough within the woodland to make some interesting woodland photos just here behind me. I don't think it is. I said earlier that the problem with these conditions is that they are fleeting. Well, what I'm noticing this morning is that the fog is rolling in and then the sun is trying to burn it back, and occasionally the sun is winning out and occasionally the fog is winning out, and I'm never sure which way it's going to end up. I'm never sure if I've got very much time to take photos. So I'm trying to make the best of it, but at the minute I'm not sure this woodland has got a thick enough layer of fog inside it for me to bother taking photos in there, so I'm going to move on. So I found my next composition of the day. Just behind me you'll notice a series of trees in the distance, and I've got the sun over in that direction behind you. And as I'm looking at this scene over here behind me, what I can see is the diffused light caused by the sun trying to shine through the mist and fog that we've got today. And it's just giving these beautiful impressions of colour and texture on these trees behind me. So I've stopped here and taken a panorama of those trees there. Using the 70 to 300mm at about 75mm, I think. Zoomed out quite a lot because there's quite a big range there of trees that I want to have a look at, so I've kind of tried to capture several of those trees in the distance, and hopefully that's worked out nicely. But it kind of starts here with this bush here on the one side and then works all the way along with these trees. And then there's another bush just along here somewhere, just in front of the trees, which kind of leads you into everything as well. So hopefully that image has worked well. If it has, I'll put it on the screen for you now. It's got to be said, guys, I'm always fascinated with how you guys decide to interact with me. First of all, thank you to all of those who have subscribed to the channel recently. That's always very welcome, and welcome to you all. Hope you enjoy what you see here, but also I'm also very impressed with the comments and the conversations that I have with some of you guys about some of the videos that I record. Going back some time ago now, I recorded a video all about aperture stacking in the landscape, which was quite interesting. It's quite an interesting thing for me to experiment with, and it was something that I really enjoyed doing at the time. But I didn't know how many people would really interact with it and get involved and talk about it until quite recently when somebody commented on the video itself, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. Today is surprisingly a bit of a struggle, to be quite honest with you, to find photos. I tend to find that I'll see some brilliant light and then I'm searching for a composition to match that brilliant light, and by the time I've found the composition, the light doesn't work with it. But anyway, back to my discussion about aperture stacking. The idea of the aperture stacking experiment was that I was trying to prove the point that if you start with a very, very wide aperture, then of course you've got a very, very shallow depth of field. So as you start taking the photo, if you then gradually decrease your aperture setting, so your aperture is getting smaller, what also happens is that your depth of field starts to increase. So if you set your first shot with the widest possible aperture, take the shot and then continue to take shots, still focused on exactly the same point, eventually your depth of field will be large enough that everything that you want will be in focus from front to back. So one of my subscribers decided to comment saying, well, why didn't I just take one photo focused on the front of the scene and take another photo focused further back in the scene? Which is a really good idea, and essentially that's what makes up focus stacking in the first place, where you focus on one point and then focus on a second point and combine those two focus points together afterwards. But with aperture stacking, you don't need to do that. You're effectively doing the same thing anyway. You're taking multiple exposures of the same scene with exactly the same focus point, but as you're taking that, you're gradually increasing the depth of field because of the way you're decreasing your aperture. So you eventually get everything fully in focus, perfect sharp focus, because you've got so many different focus points, or the same focus point with much deeper depth of field as you progress through the image. But what this guy was saying to me was, if you focus stack, you simply have one image at the front that's in focus and one image that's in focus at the back, and then you combine the two together and you should be fully in focus anyway. Well, it doesn't always follow that that's the case. Sometimes, because of the distance between your subjects, the front of your subjects and the back of your subjects, you could focus at the front and then focus at the back, and some point in the middle might not be in focus, whereas you don't get the same problem with aperture stacking. So I was trying to make that argument, which is reasonable, but in the process I started thinking about focus stacking and thinking that perhaps he was right, and focus stacking is something I do regularly anyway. So I still don't know for sure who was right or wrong there. I just thought that was a really interesting discussion, and I still don't know for sure whether I was right or whether he was right, or whether we were both right. Why don't you put a comment in the comments box below and let me know what you think. In the meantime, I've got myself to a spot where I didn't really want to be, so I'm going to have to try and find another composition now somewhere else, which is going to take me a few minutes to get to, but hopefully I'll be able to find something interesting in just a moment, especially with this light. Okay, so look at this fantastic scene behind me. I've been looking at this tree for the last few minutes to see if I can make anything out of it, and I think I can, because it's beautiful colour. It's kind of a golden browny or orange colour, and it's sort of the very last of the autumnal colours that we're getting now, right at the beginning of December. But as I look just over here, I don't know how well you can see it, but from behind that tree, further on, just in the distance, there's lots and lots of other bushes and trees and shrubs and things which are lit up perfectly by the sun, which is being diffused through all of that mist and fog behind me. Now it looks like there may be a panorama there which may take in this tree and then work its way across the scene over there. I don't know for sure how that's going to work, but I think I'm going to give it a try because the lighting is absolutely beautiful. We seem to be losing some of the fog now, but what we've got is a legacy of mistiness really, and it's the sunlight being diffused through that mistiness that's causing the beautiful light on these trees in the background. So I think there's going to be a shot there, but also what we've also got is pockets of frost that are still lying both on the ground and on the leaves of the trees and on the branches, and that's created a very interesting look and feel to the image as well, providing me with some great textures and colours. So this is what I'm going to work with for now. So although we appear to have lost the fog, from this morning, what we gained is quite a bit of sunlight, which has been diffused through any remaining mist. And the result of it is amazing. It's giving this beautiful ethereal light, soft, focused, diffused light that I really, really like, as you can see behind me. So I think there's an image over at Longmore Pool which should work with this light quite well. So I'm making my way over there now to see if I can find that image. If it doesn't work, I've got another couple of options on the way home that I think might work. So I'm going to go and try this one out first, and hopefully this works. If not, I can still probably show you a few more photos before I go home and finish this vlog. So here I am at Longmore Pool, and I've come to the back of Longmore Pool. I don't know how well you can see me, but yeah, I've come to the back of Longmore Pool because over on the far side of Longmore Pool there is a tree. I don't think you can see it, or you might be able to just about make it out just there in the background. And it's beautiful colours, because it always is, even in the summer it's got a beautiful colour on it. But it's a nice shot from this side of the pond, but also it's a spot where you don't get interrupted, so I can just get on with taking the photo and not be bothered by people trying to talk to me and have a chat with me, which I would have that issue if I was on the far side of the pond over the other side, trying to get a little bit closer to that tree. But also what I found is the light on that tree from the other side of the pond isn't very, very good. It makes a better shot from this side of the pond, so I've set up here with the 70 to 300mm lens on the camera just there, and I'm pointing out towards the pond and the tree on the far side of it. While I was standing here, I was waiting for a couple of people on the other side of the pond to walk out of the scene, because they were stood right behind the tree, and there's a bench just to the one side of it, and I wanted to capture the tree and the bench together without anybody else in the image. But it was getting kind of difficult, because just behind the bench there's a little open area of field where people walk across, a little bit of grass where people walk off the path onto the grass, and that's right behind the bench and the tree that I wanted to photograph. So unfortunately, as I was stood here waiting for those people to move, I had to wait about 10 minutes to take the shot, and obviously the light was changing all the time, and I was hoping beyond hope that the light would be just perfect by the time they'd moved out of the way. I think it's worked, so I hope you like that image as well. But meanwhile, while I'm standing here waiting for all that to happen, I've turned around, and behind me there's a little scene over here somewhere where the sun is shining through the trees, and it's creating what appears to be a lovely sun star effect in the woodland. And I think I might want to stop here and capture a photograph of that. I don't know how well I can make it work, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. So hopefully you like these two images as well. So I did something there that I wouldn't normally do. Certainly haven't done it very often before. Basically that shot there, that sun star effect did work, and I really enjoyed it. But I took 3 shots, shooting at 1/15 of a second, because there's obviously not a lot of light here, but there's quite a lot of dynamic range in that particular area itself, just where that sun star occurs. So I wanted to bracket the shots, bracket the exposures. Well, instead of bracketing the exposures, I've actually bracketed the apertures. Like I say, 1/15 of a second, ISO 100, and I've shot with 3 separate apertures, one at f16, one at f22 and one at f11. And then I'm going to combine those 3 separate apertures together in post-production afterwards. It's probably the same as using 3 separate exposures, where you just alter the exposure by altering the aperture instead of the exposure itself. So it's probably exactly the same thing as doing that, and it's similar obviously to aperture stacking, which I did in a previous video that I talked about earlier. But surprised myself a little bit then. I didn't think I was going to do that, but it seems to have worked out all right. And that really is the last of today's vlog. I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog. Hope you've enjoyed the images. I've certainly enjoyed the conditions that I've had, even though they've been rapidly changing throughout the course of the morning. And I probably didn't get the best of the conditions first thing this morning because I was out a little bit too late. But if you have enjoyed the vlog, then please remember to give it a thumbs up, and also please remember to subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you on another vlog very soon. Bye for now.